We're going to talk about the power of lines in this one. This is for you guys that have been asking for more design videos. And this is a really powerful little trick that you can utilize when designing things. But using lines, simple enough, a line, right? They're a lot more powerful than you realize, especially for hard surface designs. So I've shown on the channel previously, if you just start deviating the edge a little bit, you can come up with some rather interesting designs. Just keeping this in mind as you're working on things, right? So you want to pay attention to things like gutters as well, or the spacing between lines as well. So that's just kind of one little trick you can do with them. But here's the thing. When you make shapes, they're just lines as well, right? So you can create all kinds of different little shapes. And these lines you can, of course, deviate as well and come up with more interesting shapes, perhaps. Maybe you chamfer an edge and maybe you bevel it. Who knows, right? Just bevel it out. All right. So when you are doing something and it needs to be grounded, like it's a ground object, a line for the ground, obviously is useful. But there's something when you do characters, it's known as gestural drawing, right? You might do something like this, kind of get like an idea of kind of like a pose going, basically. So a lot of times you might do something like this, and then you'll have two edges here that you'll place, something like so, where they converge one way or the other. A lot of times this is going to be like your hip section, right? Possibly. And this will be your chest section right here. Your shoulders would go right there, and the head right here. And so what ends up happening is that you might have like the knee somewhere right there and like a foot, right? So things like this can happen basically. Okay. So if you're trying to make someone that looks like they're maybe about to go running or something, you can do something like that. Okay. Maybe put that up a little bit. All right. There, we get the idea of that one, right? Okay. So that's what you do for gestural drawing. A lot of times you have a line going through. Now, action shows that it's going kind of forward. So you can think of this as something like an action line. And when you're designing things, you can use that same premise by doing your line. Think of this as like your symmetry, your foundation, your ground, or maybe a little pose line in there, right? And we can do on one side a little bit of edge breakup. And on the other side, maybe do a little edge breakup here. Something like that, right? So you can create hard surface shapes and forms a lot easier this way when you start thinking in this manner, perhaps, right? Now it gets a little bit better because if you have that line first and you kind of determine your proportions beforehand, you'll go out to those proportions basically, right? Possibly. And we'll go straight up with that one. All right. And if you want to try to converge things to like an arrow, you can also do that, right? Have like an arrowhead shape or something. If you want to mix in other shapes as well, you can always do that. Kind of bring everything back together if needed, right? Maybe chop that side off over there and just erase it. So that could be a good foundation for an object you're creating, perhaps, right? Doing something like that. Now let's take a little step further, perhaps. You can do two lines for this one, maybe. Maybe we do a circle here or like a cylinder or whatever we want, really. You can do a cylinder, maybe put it in the center, maybe make it offset, who knows? So you think of like bike frames, for example. And if we fluctuate the edge, you could do something like that, perhaps. And maybe erase that in there, who knows? All kinds of fun stuff you can come up with, though. You can just more or less cluster shapes on top of this and get different results. It's a really fun way of just coming up with ideas. All right. So does it have to be like that either? No. We could do curves still if we wanted to. Just different kinds of curves, perhaps. And it's like maybe a big circle shape here. Something a little bit more organic like over here. So we can make all kinds of interesting little forms like this as well, based off of the foundation more or less right there. And then, do your edge variations later on as well. In our case, we'll just dip this one down and make it run into nowhere. And that'll go something like that. But we can keep working these. We can detail them now. We can add little elements to them. Maybe we're making spaceships. Maybe we need antennas or ladders or whatever we need as far as like a vehicle might go. We can start to plan things out and add vents or whatever else we need, really, right? Cluster shapes on top of shapes, perhaps. Just change it up, perhaps, right? Maybe it needs some landing gear or something like that. Who knows? So that would be like the base there. And this is a great way just to get started in general. I'll keep this simple for now. Just make it a little telescoping stick or whatever. See what we're getting at? And so just like that, we can make things happen, guys. Okay, so next up to this, maybe you want to start with the lines. You can just kind of free sketch on top of them and see what you come up with as well. It's following the same basic principles. Sometimes I don't even have to draw the lines, but you can just kind of toy around with it and see what happens. Bigger shapes, perhaps. Just trying to erase that. There we go. Right, so maybe you're making some kind of crazy weapon or something. You convert these shapes later on by adding functionality to them, basically, to make it do or be what you want it to be, basically. It's a really funky weapon, but I think you get the idea, right? Maybe this is somehow like the magazine or something. I don't know. It's got like a little lever to detach it, the handle and a magazine. All right. And I think it's a little bit misproportioned, so we'll get rid of that. That doesn't look that good anyways, like that. So you can always go back and just, refine it at that point. Make things a little bit more purposeful, perhaps. Like if you cut an edge like that, maybe bevel it or chamfer it or whatever you got to do, really, until you get the object that you want to create out of it. So add windows and all the other fun stuff if it's like a spaceship. And don't forget, you can always break your edges up a little bit more where they meet. Just create little paneling effects, right? Just a super fun way of working. And then, once you have a line established, the initial line anyways, you have a shape, you can still work on those lines as well. So like we see, we have lines here now. Right. And so that means we can do all kinds of other little fun edits here, perhaps. Maybe like we're spacing these. And we want to put like some like little rubber grip stuff here or something. Who knows? And that's just the cool part about this is that you're free to just keep working and adding just what you need for it, basically. All the extra detail. Right. And of course, later on, you color it in whatever you want it to be, like a light blue, maybe grayish blue. You can shape. Well, if you're going to render it out properly, you'd probably go back and fill behind it and shade it all, and then do your color layer on top or whatever. But still, the idea still stands that we can do this. Different material here, so we'll do different material. Maybe the same material repeats for the grip section. I don't have no trigger. That'd be nice to do, but yep, that's the power lines, guys. That's all you got to do. Just start playing around with it, see what you can come up with. The rest of this I'll leave on you to, create whatever it is you want to create. Have fun with it anyways. See what you can make happen. Okay. Of course, shade everything that you need to shade and whatnot, right? And that's the name of the game right there. Spend your time on your drawings a little bit. Don't rush through them as much as I am right now, but definitely enjoy the process. Way faster than 3D modeling something. And these are excellent bases to go ahead and start fooling around with your design ideas and see what you can start creating, basically. Playing around with like layouts and stuff like that, right? Hopefully it'll help you power up your artistic abilities and your 3D modeling abilities and everything else. That's why I wanted to make this video for you guys that were struggling. So that way you just have something solid to grasp onto anyways. It's just like a cool technique. All right, that's going to get you kind of wrapped up, I think, a little bit closer to the idea of like doing product design. It's basically concepting. It's the same thing almost. You can do some highlights if you want. Whoops, went off surface there. That's not good. All right. Yep, so you can imagine taking this a little bit further at a higher resolution. It would work out pretty well. All right. You can come up with whatever you want to come up with. Anyways, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. I'll check you out in the next one. Take care.